Oh. Hello, darlings. We are back, and my apologies. I was supposed to leave, and unfortunately, I did not just leave, but I stopped the entire broadcast. But listen, this is what happens when you are doing live TV. So we are back, and like I said, I apologize. I know everyone's trying to come in. I see people are coming in now, and so I want to make sure that as people come in, that they kind of hear my apology that I did, in fact, stop the broadcast. But listen, just because I stopped the broadcast, we want to make sure that you come in. Doc and Marty are still going to be here talking COVID-19 as well as taking your questions. Thank you guys so much for coming back. Magaline, thank you so much for joining. Val, I think you're back as well. So thank you guys so very much for coming back. As I said, it was my fault, and I will take responsibility for that. So maybe we'll have to give you guys back 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something. Maybe not this show. It's totally up to the guys. But I have to do something for you live and for real. LOL. Exactly, Magdalene. Thank you. So you guys, I love you so much. Thank you guys for joining. Doc and Marty are going to go ahead and take this away and start with those COVID-19 numbers exactly where we are. So Nicole, thank you guys so much for joining. And we are back. So Marty and Doc, go ahead and give us those numbers again.
Yes.
Okay, great. Welcome back, y'all. So, yeah, I went over the overall numbers, being 5 million plus in the U.S. and over 170,000 deaths. But there are certain states that are still peaking.
Right.
And I need everyone to understand the trend, because back in April, we had peaked with when we finally started to practice social distancing and wearing masks. We were peaking somewhere around 45,000 new cases per day.
Right.
And then it went all the way down. We started seeing the trend downward on that bell-shaped curve. So by June 1st, we were down to about 14 to 15,000 cases per day. And we thought, okay, we're going to be out of the woods real soon. And just keep trending downwards. But then about what happened with the marches, the protesting, the beachgoers, the cabin fever, everything kind of happened. And then everything came out, everybody went back out and stuff started opening up. Bars are opening, all the stuff. And so it just went way, way, way up to where 45,000 cases a day was like small. It went up to about 80,000 cases a day in June and July. And now it's tapering down again, but it's still not even where we were back in June. It's right now around about 60,000 cases per day. So it's coming down. It's not 75 or 80, but it's still quite high. And, certain states like California, has over 600,000 cases,
right,
11,000 deaths. And it's spreading like wildfire in Georgia. I mean, almost every county in our state has it, with Fulton and Gwinnett County being the two highest. We're over 22,000 cases in each of those counties. And for statewide, it's around 3,000 plus new cases being diagnosed per day. And obviously, with the more testing you do, because there's so many people who may have had it or have had it, and we haven't identified them, but it's certainly not something that's going to end soon.
Wow, and that is so. It's still alarming where we're at. Now, Doc, would you say that these are the results from the protesting that we definitely have seen, and a lot of the people, not practicing physical distancing in that, and then us thinking that the summer months was going to, because part of the propaganda was that when summer gets here, we'll see the numbers go down because the heat kills the virus and that type of thing. And we're definitely, and please correct me if I'm wrong, seeing that is not the case.
That's certainly not the case. The heat did not slow this virus down. If anything, you look in June and July and now August, peak hot months, right?
Yes.
And the cases went up. So the temperature has nothing to do with it. What's more alarming to me is not so much the cases, because as you know, and we've talked
Mm-hmm.
about this on the show,
Right.
99.7% of people are going to do fine with this disease. But
Mm-hmm.
that 170,000 people that died from this condition, obviously, when you're older, you're at more risk of,
Right.
right? So we all know that. But overall, kids have like a 0.03% case fatality rate, which is small.
Mm-hmm.
But as you older, and I went through the different age group last
Right.
week.
Last week.
It just keeps going up and up and up. So you can expect about 0.3% of people who get the disease to die from it, which is,
Right.
as the more we diagnose, is the more you're going to see, and that's what's the alarming thing, because the death rate,
Mm-hmm.
deaths just keep climbing, you know,
It
climbing.
is.
Yeah, and in Georgia the deaths are climbing.
And I think, Doc, we're seeing this, and this is why I love this integrative approach to medicine today that we
Hmm.
need to do a lot more practicing of, because
Hmm.
we are tired of the COVID. I get it.
We
We're
are.
tired of it, but we
Yeah.
still have to press forward through this and in it. What do you say to those who are just tired of it and still letting their guard down? I know what I would share with them on the emotional side, but
Right.
still, what do we still need to do from a physical health point of view about keeping our guard up to protect ourselves
Yeah.
from this COVID?
Well, what it's going to require a lot of patience, and
Mm-hmm.
there's not a race for the swift, right?
Right.
Most pandemics will last anywhere between 12 months and 3 years, 36.
Wow.
So we have to be in it for the long haul. So you have
Wow.
to do what you need to do to keep your body as fit as possible. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in terms of being healthy and with the ability to fight this infection should you get it.
Mm-hmm.
So what have I been preaching for the past 3 months? Exercise,
Yes.
nutrition,
Yes.
meditation, mindfulness, just really
Yes.
getting that positive attitude. Because if you give up and decide, well, I'm just tired of this, I'm just going to go ahead and do what I have to do, and then you get a bad case, you can actually die from this condition. So you don't want that. You want to be diligent,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to be consistent. You want to wear your mask,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're going out amongst other people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'll talk a little bit about what you do should you want to travel, because you don't have to be
Yes.
locked up and cooped up in the house. You can go out, go for a walk, go for a run, go for a bike.
Right.
These are things that are going to actually improve your physical conditioning. And we know that when you're physically fit, you're going to be a much better at fighting this condition. Most of the athletes that get sick, you don't hear any athletes dying from it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're fit. They're fit physically. And so your physical makeup is crucial to overall fighting this disease.
And that's so important because as you become more physically fit and we work on your mind, and as your mind gets more stronger, it then talks to your physical body back and
Ah,
forth. And this dialogue, you've been preaching that from day one with
that,
that.
awesome. That is so true. The mind is very, very important as it pertains to you sticking with that,
Right.
and getting depressed or getting anxious and then crippling your activities because of that mental condition certainly is not something that you want to do.
Yeah, I totally believe that, Doc. And
Hmm.
and I know what you have told me since I have survived COVID
I know.
with that as well, and taking my omegas and taking my zinc, taking my vitamin D, making sure I take my vitamin C with that. I'm
Mhm.
taking turmeric and black seed oil, all those things. And then I got up this morning at 7 to try and beat the heat because we're in the triple digits out here in Cali.
Yeah, that's
108, 109, 110. So I got about 7 o'clock this morning and did my 5 mile walk, got that my exercise in. And Doc, I tell you this, because of that, I feel so
good.
much better.
Oh yeah.
I feel better post COVID than I
Oh,
did
yeah.
pre COVID, to tell you the truth.
Oh, I know. And you have more energy, right?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
drinking lots of water.
Water.
Try. I'm not up to a gallon yet, but I'm
Hmm.
getting there. I'm getting the water in, eliminating a lot of fried stuff, doing a lot more greens
Yeah.
with that. And Doc, you are so right. It
Hmm.
just took a mind shift
Hmm.
in that, and I had to even encourage myself during that time. So,
Oh,
so
yeah.
how do we encourage people even to make that shift, even eating better,
Yeah.
and and could you please one more time just repeat those nutrients that you feel that we definitely have to take?
Yeah. Well, we have a wellness practice. So
Yes,
I go on this bandwagon pretty much. If I see 20 patients that day, I'm telling 20 different people what they
right.
need to do to prevent just diseases in general.
Yes,
And
yes.
the most common disease, is that of obesity, which leads
Mm-hmm.
to hypertension and
Mm-hmm.
diabetes. And you get this metabolic syndrome, and those people, they're the ones who are developing the cancers and heart disease. And it's you would think it'd be a no-brainer, but people get so locked into their routine, and if you expect the FDA or any other governmental agency to help you, there's information out there, but it's like buyer beware.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to approve certain things that they know is unhealthy, right?
Right.
But we all know
Right.
that smoking is unhealthy. But
Right.
if they say, okay, well, since smoking is unhealthy, we're going to shut down all the tobacco plants. That's never going to happen, right?
No. No.
And we know that eating donuts every day is with a lot of sugar is probably not healthy.
Right.
You shut down all the Dunkin' Donuts, right? So these these things are out there, and it's for you, the consumer, to
Yes.
understand that these things are there.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol is there. Excessive amount of alcohol is not good,
Mm-hmm.
but it's there, and we have to learn how to do things in moderation. You can have a donut every now.
Yay.
You, you just can't have donuts every day.
Every day. Right.
Two,
Right.
three donuts
They
and eat
become a
them.
treat.
Exactly. You can have ice cream. You can have candy.
Yes.
It's all about balance, and it's all about making sure that when you take those things in, that you're not living a sedentary lifestyle, because that's what's going to pile on the fat and get you sick.
Right, right. Doc, we had a question by Nicole that we want to definitely address with that. She says, Doc, my family and I started taking zinc lozenges. Do you recommend daily use or only if you have cold symptoms?
No, I recommend taking zinc pretty much every day, about
Mm-hmm.
20 milligrams a day during this pandemic. You're not going to overdose on it,
Mm.
and the lozenges, I mean, I don't even know how many milligrams are in that, but I don't think it's going to be too much. So if you do one lozenge a day, in addition to the other nutrients that we've talked about before, but I will repeat, we do need vitamin C.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get vitamin C from citrus fruits, but during this time, prophylactically, I recommend at least 2,000 milligrams or two
Okay.
grams of vitamin C per day, not 500, or
Right.
not what the dietary organization will say. 50 milligrams, some minutia amount. You need at least 2,000 milligrams. Now, vitamin C is a water soluble vitamin. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't stay in your system. You take it, and literally within 6 to 8 hours, it's probably all consumed, right?
Right.
It's an antioxidant, and it helps to reduce free radical burden, which is
Mm-hmm.
what causes damage to the cells. So
Mm.
you want to make sure you're taking that every day. And you can split up the dosing if you have time for that by taking one in the morning, one in the evening, 1,000 milligrams. Or, if you've been exposed, what we do in our office, we do IV vitamin C.
Mm.
And we know that, in China and some of the hospitals here in the United States,
Right.
for sepsis, for infections of the blood, they're using IV vitamin C, and it's been well documented that it helps to reduce the burden and the inflammation within the body and
Mm-hmm.
help to improve the immune system. So vitamin C, whether you're doing it orally or intravenously, If you've been exposed to COVID, I do strongly recommend that. Vitamin D is
Mm-hmm.
crucial. Vitamin D is more like a hormone. It's not just a vitamin. And everyone knows that, well, they think they drink a little bit of milk, they're going to get enough vitamin D.
Right.
Everybody, literally, we do vitamin D testing on everybody in our office. Everybody who comes in for a physical
Wow.
will get a vitamin D test.
Mm-hmm.
Literally 90% of people that we've tested are low, and they're below the level of 30. When the recommended
Wow.
blood level of vitamin D is between 60 and 80, to really help with your immune system, to help to
Mm-hmm.
prevent colon cancer,
Mm-hmm.
help to prevent breast cancer and
Mm-hmm.
prostate cancer. You keep your vitamin D level up, you're going to have a good immunostimulant, immunomodulator that will help your body, not just for bones. We all know
Mm-hmm.
vitamin D is important for bones, but for your immune system, to
Yes.
modulate your blood pressure, to modulate your blood sugar. Vitamin D is crucial for the immune system. So that's something that you should definitely take. I recommend 10,000 IUs a day. For a child, maybe 5,000, 2 to
Mm-hmm.
5,000. Once you
Mm-hmm.
get the level above 60, then you can cut the dose back. But most people are going to be low in vitamin D.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So we talk about zinc, we talk about C and D. Those are the big three, right? And
Okay.
then I believe that everyone should be on a good probiotic.
Probiotic.
Yeah.
Doc, you got it in me. You got it
Yes,
in me.
yes. To help with the, because 90%, well, 80 to 90% of the immune system lies in the gut, because the
Mm-hmm.
gut is a pipe from your mouth to your anus, and that is how we're exposed to a lot of toxins. And
Mm-hmm.
when our gut lining breaks down in the form of having leaky gut,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more toxins are going to get across and get into our bloodstream. And once
Mm.
it gets in there, then it can create havoc. So you want to keep your gut healthy. You want to have good bacteria to suppress the bad bacteria. So
Mm-hmm.
this way you can have a strong immune system. A good probiotic is required. And you don't get gut issues. You don't get the bloating. Some people, they get bloating all the time, or they'll get
Mm-hmm.
irritable bowel. They'll get cramping. They'll get diarrhea intermittently. They'll get constipation, and we see
Right.
that constipation is prevalent, very prevalent
Mm.
with the SAD diet, which is the standard American diet.
I like the standard American. It's so
Yeah,
sad.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. So,
good.
mhm. Yeah, you want to eat more like a Mediterranean person. You want to eat
Right.
lots more salads and greens and fish and
Yes.
and stay away from a lot of red meat. You can have it, just don't overindulge with it. And the purists will say you should be a vegan, but I'm not really I'm not really a big
I'm
proponent of
not
that.
quite there yet,
Yeah,
Doc.
yeah, exactly. And I think if you have heart disease, if you have hardening of the arteries, it's
Hmm.
been well shown the vegan diet can reverse hardening of the arteries
Wow.
at that point. But if you don't have it, enjoy your fish, enjoy your poultry,
Right.
so that's how it is.
But Doc, one of the arguments I always hear, and we're going to get to some of these other questions we have, is that it's so
Mhm,
expensive to live a healthy life. But I say
mhm,
it's reverse. If you get COVID, if you get in the hospital or anything like, it's the bills that can accumulate after that, especially after if you have insurance or what have you.
mhm.
So it's more proactive to live this healthy life, make it a part of your daily routine now than it is to do the converse of that.
Yeah, it's and so much. Most people who have chronic medical conditions
Hmm.
will have a mental issue as well, a mental
Yes.
illness. It goes hand in hand,
Yes, they
So,
do.
and then in terms of compliance, if you're depressed, you're not going to be compliant, whether it's taking your medicine or changing your
Hmm.
lifestyle. It's so much
Right.
easier for people to say, I'm already fat. I'm just going to just sit back here, and
Hmm.
the slightest stress that hits them, they go
Yes.
right back into doing the
Yes.
things that they've done in the past. And so it's their comfort level. They're just, okay, I can't really make these changes. And it's the mental health professional job and the physician's job to,
Yes.
to motivate these people so they can make those lifestyle changes. And we're a wellness practice, and I can tell you, we're probably successful with probably less than 5 or 10% of the people, because most
Wow.
people don't change.
Wow.
Most people don't change.
That's alarming, Doc, because I believe if we had more therapists right in the doctor's office, right there, that
Hmm.
we can, and they sign the consent form,
Consent.
consent, yes. What a better, our numbers would definitely go up higher,
Absolutely.
because one of the things we're there, like you're saying, I always ask mine, if you're going to the doctor, can I get a consent so that
Right.
we can talk back and forth, so that we can together, then I become like this case manager, so we
Hmm.
can get together, make a treatment plan that is going to be beneficial for
Hmm.
your success
Absolutely.
in
And
that.
that's why, Marty, health coaches are
Mm-hmm.
so big right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were reimbursed for that, where every patient that we see would
Yes.
then sign up for a health coach
Yes.
and check in with that person once a week. That you have a
Yes.
diabetic, you have a person who that's has weight issues. Um, you know, if they had someone that they can just follow up with on a regular, instead of every 3 months, where I'm seeing,
Right.
oh, you haven't made any change. No, I lost I lost 1.5 pounds in the last 3 months. I'm always excited. I'm like, 1.5 pounds, great.
Yes.
You didn't gain 1.5 pounds.
Yes, better to lose than gain with
Yeah.
that.
And then, but a lot of people come back and they would have put on another 10 pounds. So
Mm-hmm.
it really is, the monitoring aspect, to that. Monitoring any condition, any chronic disease,
Yes.
requires monitoring and coaching.
Yes, and it really is. And Doc, even with that, I love this acronym that we have to use now, that I've used before, but I think it's so important to bring it back. We, in this period of COVID, when we're in COVID fatigue and COVID frustration and COVID burnout, because if your anxiety was already at a 2 or 4 before COVID, it's at a 6 or 8 now during COVID. If your depression was already high, it's even higher now. But like Doc is saying, we have to use wisdom, or be wise. I think we have to definitely be wise in everything that we do. And let me walk you through this acronym, y'all. I love acronyms because I think it's so this. I'm not that smart, so I have to
I
use
love
this so
your
I can
acronym.
remember. Oh, thank you, Doc. I appreciate it. First, the W. W stands for this: work through your emotions and anxieties. That's what Doc has been talking about. That's what I've been sharing. How do we
Hmm.
work through it? Get you get you a health coach. Get you a therapist. Get you a trusted person that's going to hold you accountable as you're working through it. I say this all the time: speak up, speak out, and live. The only way you're going to work through those is when you speak up. Yes, it's okay that you're frustrated. Yes, it's okay that you're tired. But no, it's not okay that you give up. Now is not the time to give up. Doc said it. The race is not given to the swift or the strong, but to
Hmm.
the one who endures. This
Endure.
pandemic is about endurance. So
That's
W is work through your emotions, your anxiety, your depression, your frustration. Let's work through it, y'all. The I stands for this: increase your awareness. How do
hmm
you increase your awareness? Doc's been talking about this, y'all. Y'all see how I hope they see how it works hand in hand, Doc.
that's right.
When you do a lot of meditation, when you're
Hmm.
starting to eat healthier, when you're getting that exercise in, you become increasingly aware of your strengths and your inabilities. And then we focus on the strengths as we're becoming aware of these things. So increase your awareness, not only of yourself, of your family environment, of the if your kids are going into school, in the classroom environment, in your work environment, in your community. Increase your awareness, y'all. S stands for this: set priorities. And I'm going to say this: set boundaries. You got to set priorities in your life. You got to set those boundaries. Listen, some of those boundaries might even be as simple as, listen, we are not going to expose ourselves to everybody. We need to know who you've been in contact with. Set your priorities. What is the priority during this pandemic for you and your family? What does that look like? Set those priorities and remind yourself of those, so that you stay healthy and strong. And the final thing is E. evaluate and examine your progress. Just like Doc is saying, hey, maybe this week I lost 2 pounds. Let's celebrate that. We have to learn to celebrate the small things and not just wait for the big things. Celebrate, hey, and I love how Portia starts off the show. What are you grateful for? Start, what are you grateful for? And I always say this, start a gratitude journal to remind you what you're grateful for as well, because that allows you to examine your process. So, in that, y'all, we have to be wise during this pandemic.
Awesome,
Yes,
awesome, awesome. Love those.
yes.
Love those.
Thank
It's
you.
kind of put it all in one, so folks can take that back with them and
That's
follow through.
right. Derek, we have a
Exactly.
question about a health coach, Doc, that based upon the what you had said, and
Hmm.
I think it's Magdalene. Magdalene, she was saying something in regards to. Here we go. It says a health coach signing a consent form for your health professional to collaborate with your therapist or a health coach in a plan can that be created, I believe is the question. Wow, where do I get that form so that people can go to their doctors, and how do you find a health coach? Great question.
Yeah. Well, most progressive practices will hire a health
Mm-hmm.
coach, one or two, in their
Mm.
practice. In my concierge practice, which is because it costs money, the
Mm-hmm.
health coach has to be paid. We have we have a help. I pretty much monitor these patients weekly when they're in
Mm-hmm.
a program. For instance, if they're in a weight loss program, they
Right.
need accountability, and that's what
Yes.
a health coach provides. They need to be able to ask questions by text or whatever about whatever, I'm going to eat this tonight. Is this okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is the type of information that people need on a daily basis. And, if they're motivated to really achieve the gains, they will follow through with it. But some if you all you have to do is call the practice and find out if they have health coaches, independent health coaches out there that I've referred people to, and they
Mm-hmm.
pay them directly. But to bring one into the office on a regular basis, it's an additional expense that right
Right.
now is still not covered under the insurance policies, which is ridiculous. They
And
do case
definitely
management with a registered nurse, but that's on a
right.
monthly basis. Yeah.
But people, you can call your insurances and ask them about a
Health.
therapist, and tell your therapist, hey, I'm looking for accountability and a health coach perspective in that.
Correct.
And if they can't take, if you can't do it, can you refer me to someone like
Right.
that? So it can be, because we're going through a lot of PTSD. We're going
Hmm.
through a lot of adjustment disorder. We're going through a lot of anxiety. All those things are medical, as we say out here, necessities, or they're medically available.
Hmm.
Things that you can do so that you're not necessarily coming out of your pocket, but those who have insurance, you can definitely do it that way. And if you don't, ask about some low cost, no cost. Find you a good college that has
Right.
a MFT or a MSW, Master of Social Work or Marriage and Family Therapist program, because we have to graduate with so many practicing hours, and those are great people. And some of the students are sometimes better than some of the practitioners, if
Hmm.
truth be told, in that.
Yeah, and that when you do have money and you can
Hmm.
pay, um, like in certain areas, personal training
Yes.
is very, very big, and most of the personal trainers also have nutritional
Yes.
certification. Now, if you're training to be a bodybuilder versus just training to be healthy,
Healthy.
a regular healthy person,
Hmm.
they're all out there to help you, to assist you, but that's again out of pocket. So
Hmm.
that is when people talk about, it's expensive to live healthy. That's why, because if they require better meals, right, more
Hmm.
fruits and vegetables,
Hmm.
organic foods, which is much better than the GMO stuff,
Hmm.
right, and preparation and coaching, all
Hmm.
of that requires some funds. But what's more important is no other commodity, nothing, no other commodity that's more
Hmm.
important to you than your health in terms of
Right.
what you should be spending money on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
So
when you
good.
lose that, when you lose it, then what?
Hmm.
You have a big house, you have a nice car,
Right. You can't take it
and
with you.
you can't take it with
With
You
that,
got to you got to spend the money on your health.
yes. Doc, question had comes now about travel. Is it safe
Right.
to travel right now?
Mhm.
What's your thought on traveling?
Well, traveling. If there's a few questions that you have to ask yourself, and I actually wrote this down. But knowing that when you travel, staying at home is going to be obviously safer, especially now. We're still averaging about 60,000 new cases, right? So where are you traveling? That's crucial. You need to know the incidence of COVID-19 infection to the area that you're going. If it's the low incidence, then it's probably safer to travel there,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's important. So is COVID-19 spreading at where you're at your destination?
Mm-hmm.
Other question, do you live with someone who might be likely to get ill should they get COVID-19? Are you living with
Right.
someone over the age of, say, 60,
Right.
65, 70? Those people are going to be at risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if they
Mm-hmm.
have comorbidities, if they're
Right.
morbidly obese, if they have diabetes, if they have an autoimmune disease. You have to think about that. Do you really want to go and come back and expose them should you get exposed? Big question. Uh,
Yes.
Yourself, are you more likely to get
Mm.
from COVID-19? Most people do fine with the infection. And if you get it, chances are if you have a normal immune system and your normal weight and you're getting the proper exercise and you're taking proper nutrients, you have a 99% chance of beating this disease.
Mm-hmm.
Most people who get COVID, if it's a mild case, within 10 to 14 days, they're better.
Yes.
If they get a bad case, it can take months, three
Right.
months, for them to actually recuperate. I have lots of patients now that have been diagnosed with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and they have this lingering. They're chronically fatigued.
Yes.
They can't. They're not kicking it. Whether
Yes.
it be a chronic cough or a little mild shortness of breath, they just don't feel like themselves, and it
Right.
lingers. It lingers. It lingers. So those are the people that really need, to just really check themselves and to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that they're doing the right things to improve their immune system. So traveling, really, you have to take that all into consideration. And then lastly, you really need, if you're going to do international travel, you need to
Mm.
check with that state and find out, are they going to mandate
Right.
you to be quarantined for
Quarantine.
2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
So that's crucial, right? You're gonna you don't want to go someplace and say, "Well, I have a week to spend there," and they say, "Well, you got to stay over here for 14 days before you can get out." You know?
Right.
That's all important questions to ask. Should you uh, become should you want to travel in the United
Yes.
States and outside the United
And
States?
outside, that's so
Mhm.
important in these times. And that, so for, if I am traveling, then if that is
Mhm.
the case, what precautions do I need to take while traveling, Doc?
Right. Good. Now, let's say you're going to fly. If you're
Mm-hmm.
going to fly, I will tell you that a lot of people, the exposure will probably occur on the lines, going through security where you're going to have a lot of people. So you want to make sure you're wearing a mask,
Okay.
right? Right. That's crucial. You want to make sure you have hand sanitizer with you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to avoid people who are sick. That sounds that sounds funny, but when you go somewhere and you see people who are coughing or sniffling, you're more likely to stand back from them, right? But which is
That's
what
so disrespectful that they're traveling like that.
I know.
Like,
They
you
should
should have
stay
stayed at
home.
home.
Right, why are you traveling?
Right. Like quarantining all of us.
But then you want to avoid, touching your
Mm-hmm.
eyes, your nose, your mouth. You definitely want to do that to prevent cross contamination. But like
Right.
I was going to say that flying in an airplane, because the air is changing on a regular, it is really safer than traveling on a train where you're sitting there for hours, where
Oh,
the air is
wow.
not being recirculated, or traveling in a car with other people. It's actually safer
Wow.
to fly because of that the way the air is just every 30 seconds, the air is being changed out, so it's not lingering. So
Okay.
yeah, so subways the same
That's
thing.
great to know. I'm just going, what? Because
Yeah,
I'm thinking I
right.
need to jump in my
And then
car and
yeah, but if you go in your car and you're by yourself, you're okay. It's if you
right,
should say you take an Uber, right?
right. That's
Yeah,
good. That's
you
good.
don't know if the Uber driver has symptoms and he's sitting in the car and
Mm,
he's filled up that car with floating viruses or bacteria.
right.
You
Or
don't
the
know.
people that might have been in before and it's still
Or
lingering and they may not have
exactly,
sanitized. Wow. Now, okay,
exactly.
now you got me thinking second thoughts about it. Not that I take Uber or Lyft, but it make you go, hold on. I don't know about
Yeah.
those people.
Hmm. Yeah, but
Yes,
that's
yes.
what you have to do when you're actually traveling. You just have to wear, make sure you have a good mask, and the mask should be good. If you can get an N95, that's best.
Right.
And you know, have your hand sanitizers around, and not to touch your nose, your eyes, and places like that where you can cross contaminate yourself.
Yes, people are up here saying that that's good, Jessica. That's great information. And Jessica even said, "Wow!" before that, because I think you just blew all of our minds when you say it's actually safer to travel via plane. And
Yes.
and I'm not one who gets overwhelmed easy, but I'm like, wait a minute. You
Hmm.
got to get one of them little portable Lysols that you can take
Yeah.
with you if you can find it
Right.
these days.
Right.
Um,
And
Doc,
we flew about a month ago, and I tell you, it
okay,
was we used one of the bigger airlines, and so they didn't jam us all together. There was no
right,
one in the middle seat. But
okay.
I've heard from my colleagues that they've taken other airlines, and the planes are jam packed. Jam. I'm like, really? Yeah. So
Yeah, a
it
good friend of
really
mine walked
depends.
off a plane because of that. He was like, "Wait a minute, there's no one supposed to be sitting next to me," and he goes, "Mm-mm," and he literally said, "Get me off of here," and he and his wife jumped in the car and ended up
Hmm.
driving as opposed to taking that
Yeah.
flight. Yeah,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it's crazy in that regards,
Hmm.
but no,
Hmm.
Doc, thank you for that information about traveling in that as well. Wow, that's a amazing thing with that. So guys, we appreciate you if you're joining us. Listen, we are so grateful for y'all doing a great job. Thank you. We're trying to make sure we hold up our end of the bargain so Portia can trust us as her co-host
I
with
did.
it.
I did want to talk about.
Please.
Somebody had asked me, when will this pandemic end?
Mm,
And
yes.
that's a big question, because people are
Yes.
like, okay, well, yes, we're in it now. It's been 5 months. When is it going to end? When are we going to be able to get back to normal? So actually, it caused me to go and look and see what the experts are saying.
Okay.
Right. And some of these folks are people, they're developing vaccines, right? And they're expecting a vaccine to be released anytime, any day now. The safety and the effectiveness of that vaccine is going to be important. But I think most of the experts are saying that we're going to be living with the coronavirus until the end of 2021. So we're looking at another year and 4 months before we can
Wow.
say, bam, this thing is going to be over, and it's not going to be in the news, the daily topic.
Right.
It's going to be around for a while. And why? Because now the flu season is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Flu season starts. We start giving the vaccine for flu in August now, and then the infection rate peaks in the winter time,
Right.
December, January, February time.
Right.
So they're expecting another rise, another spike of
Yes.
coronavirus during that period of time. So we're going to be living with this. So please don't get impatient. Don't.
That's the key.
You just have to stick with the plan. Stick with the
Mm-hmm.
plan, because 170,000 people have already perished.
Wow.
And you don't want to be a part of this. They're estimating that by the end of the year, they'll have well over 200,000
Yep.
people that's going to die from
That's
this virus.
astonishing.
Yeah, that's a lot, and that's enough for you to say, "Well, I'm not going to be one of those. I'm going to do what I need to do
Mm-hmm.
to prevent this virus from taking my life." So,
Yeah.
and essentially what it is. So it's gonna you think you're looking at, and then herd immunity when
Mm,
60% of the population, 60 to 70% of the population have
has been.
antibodies, have been
Mm-hmm.
exposed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have now have antibodies
Mm-hmm.
that's going to prevent them from getting the infection for we don't know how long, but
Right, right.
maybe 6 months. That's when you'll see things really slowing down because a lot of people have already gotten it and they
Mm-hmm.
have the antibodies to it, and so they're not going to be transmitting it to anyone else. So there's a
Right.
lot of variables to think about. When the vaccine is going to come out, how many people will get it, how many people will survive and produce
Right.
antibodies. So it's all of those things have to be taken into effect.
Yes. So even in the, I think I know the answer, but even with this COVID and everything, the recommendation is: do you recommend getting a flu shot for those? And that was, do you recommend getting the regular flu shot? Is it safe?
Yeah. Well, the flu shot is not any less safe than it
Right.
was in years past,
Mm-hmm.
Tricia. Um, because some people when they get the flu shot, if they're not immunocompetent, um, competent rather,
Mm-hmm.
they will get some flu-like symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it won't be as bad as it would have been if they should get the flu, but they may get some flu-like symptoms. If they have allergies to eggs, then they shouldn't get the flu shot because that it's usually made in an egg base. That's how they generate the vaccine.
Oh.
So people shouldn't take it if they're going, because they may get an allergic reaction to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not. You don't want to get the flu the same time you get COVID because you
COVID.
get two things at the same time, and that's not going to help you. That's
No.
essentially is just a double whammy on the immune system.
Right, right. And Doc, what I want to kind of transition, if we could, just before we wrap everything up, is definitely as we have seen all of these kids going back to school,
Hmm.
parents worried, and definitely parents. I definitely suggest to you, go back to that acronym of WISE in that regard as well. Use your own wisdom with your children because they're
Hmm.
still your children with that, and especially if there's some comorbidities and pre-existing conditions that are already in your families that is going in there, talking through that as well, and that type of thing. But would you recommend anything for our families, Doc, as we're continuing on, as they're returning back to school, and even health wise for them as well?
Well, I think that we talked about this last week because it was
Mm-hmm.
all about kids.
Kids.
It really depends again on the amount of COVID in your school,
Right.
in your district, in your county, locally, because this it has to be managed locally.
Yes.
We know that kids, when they get it, 99.97% of them will be fine. They will not perish from this condition. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just a matter of making sure that you're giving your kid the right
That's it.
nutrients, that
Yes.
they have taken them every day, and that they're drinking plenty of water, they're
Mm-hmm.
getting enough vitamins and minerals,
Mm-hmm.
and they are practicing the social distancing as outlined by the school if they're
Right.
going in school. I know
Right.
a lot of students are doing online school, or there's
Yes.
a mixture of some going in and not and out, and they're trying to limit the class sizes. And I think that's what's going to happen. And slowly they're going to increase the amount of in-person school, and then we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. And Doc, thank you for repeating that because I think it definitely bears repeating in that, just as a reminder to our parents as well. And I want to encourage parents on the mental health side, go back to your routines that keep our kids. Kids do thrive in routines
Hmm.
because it helps lower the anxiety when they know what to expect. In this time of uncertainty, it is so good to gain control and help out over those things where you have control over so that you can help the kids in that regard so they're not anxious, help the parents get back on track so they're not anxious, and we have this um, system that is going to work out for our kids because they don't know. There's lots of questions. I talk about how we have to continue to communicate with our children. It's okay to say, guess what? Mommy and daddy, big mama, we don't know what's going on, but we're here with you. I'm nervous just along with you, but we're here to support you in that. As your kids go back to school, make sure, especially for those who are definitely doing the homeschooling, make sure you have great communication back and forth with your teachers. Because you're a parent, we don't expect you to be a teacher. You're just helping to facilitate the learning environment. Uh, Ask your kids what kind of learning environment do they want. Is it better for them to be in their rooms? Is it better for them to be in the open area? Talk through that. Try some different things, but talk through your mental health so that you stay sane and sound during this pandemic. Yes. And that's what I would say, Doc. So, Doc, as we wrap everything up, my God, it has been great doing this with you tonight, man. I
Yes,
appreciate you
yes,
as always.
always.
Doc, how can the people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you about questions?
Okay, yeah. Well, we have practices in Atlanta, one in Hateville and one in Tucker, and the general number is listed there. It's 678-205-2039. They can call for consultations or to book an appointment there. My concierge practice, we have a different number, but just go online and check us out at n1wellness.com, and you'll see that our focus is really more on lifestyle. You know, we are medical
Mm-hmm.
providers, so we prescribe drugs every day. However, we just because you've been given that diagnosis where it requires you to be on a medication doesn't mean that if this is a lifestyle condition
Right.
that you can't get off of it at some time.
Yeah.
But
That's a
you got to correct the imbalances, and the only way to do that is through lifestyle. So
yes, yes.
yes, sir.
Wonderful,
Hmm.
wonderful, Doc. I
It's been a
appreciate you.
pleasure.
Well, this has been absolutely
All
amazing.
right, Marty.
And again, my name is Marty Sellers. Hey, Jessica, you are so welcome. Thank you for joining us on this evening. And I can be reached at www.mentalhealthmarty.com or marcelconsulting.com as well, if you'd like to reach out to us. And as always, waking up is automatic, but showing up is intentional. And today, what she say, Doc? I will show up. So
That's
thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week with Portia. Portia, hope you and your family are enjoying your time with your son. And we are so glad that you have joined us. And we will see you next week. Thanks, Doc.
all right. Be well. Be
Like
well.